Welcome to Calling All Voices, brought to you by Dementia Action Alliance and the Global Council on Alzheimer's Disease. My name is Deborah Tan, and I serve as a board member for Dementia Action Alliance. In the Calling All Voices podcast series, you will hear from people living with dementia and care partners from diverse communities. They will share their stories about resilience and persistence and how it can help people to continue to live meaningful lives, even with a diagnosis of dementia. And you will also hear these participants discuss why it is important that we call all voices to share their experiences.
Welcome to the podcast series, Calling All Voices. Calling All Voices focuses on hearing from the lived experiences from those often marginalized, underserved, and unheard. My name is Jessica, and I have the privilege of being the host of this series of Calling All Voices that is focused on hearing from and better understanding the personal experiences of those who live with or support someone living with dementia from the Asian community. In today's podcast, I am so excited to have Mario join me to explore some very important topics, such as stigma and its impact on sharing a dementia diagnosis, and the need for more cultural awareness and understanding, along with ethnic-specific and appropriate services. But before we get started, let me just tell you a little bit about Mario. Since 2008, when Mario was diagnosed with dementia, he's been a passionate advocate for the treatment and care of people living with dementia in Canada and beyond. That is why Mario's been so active, sitting on various committees, advancing important initiatives, participating in forming research, mentoring students, working with the Alzheimer's Society of Canada to create a charter of rights for people living with dementia, and he was present at Canada's first National Dementia Conference hosted by the Government of Canada in 2018, and Mario does so much more. Mario, welcome, and thank you so much for being on this podcast.
Hello, everybody. What a great introduction. I don't know if I can live up to that introduction. So my name is Mario Gregorio, and I was diagnosed with vascular cognitive impairment, or the previous term we used to use is dementia, or vascular dementia. It is now called vascular cognitive disorder. So since I've been diagnosed, I thought about what is life after a diagnosis. And since then, I have been an advocate on how to live a better life, or how to enjoy the remaining lives. I like to call it the point wherein we call it the best before date. It has been 15 years, and I thought I will not survive that kind of a really dreadful diagnosis of dementia. But thankfully, through the cooperation or collaboration with my neurologist, my geriatrician, whom I call my referee for my drug prescriptions. I will talk about it later. I've been doing well, and it is such an honor to be joining you today. Thank you.
Thanks. Such an important point, living well with dementia. Thank you. Mario, as you know, it hasn't been easy finding people from the Asian community diagnosed with dementia to speak up and share their lived experiences. In your opinion, what might be the case or the cause for that?
Dementia is such a dreaded disease, and a lot of people fear about it. Not only the person who is diagnosed, but also for the families. And also, this creates a challenge for people to move forward and be diagnosed because of this fear of having it, or probably having it. Our government is challenged on how to provide the services and the manpower. And also, my biggest concern is the impact of this diagnosis to the family and their family partners.
Not easy. You know, Mario, you've been so active in helping address the misconceptions often associated with dementia. What from helping healthcare professionals, researchers, and the general community better understand how to support people living with dementia to live well. My first question is, what advice would you give to people living with dementia in the Asian community to help them live well?
One of the things that we need to look at is why are people in the South Asian communities reluctant to disclose that they have the dementia or their family members have dementia. Some cultures actually hide the fact that one of their family members have dementia because of the ethnicity or the cultural background wherein being diagnosed with a horrifying, I'm sorry to use that word, uh, 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 because it may reduce the marriage prospect of their succeeding generation, their children or their grandchildren. So even if a person like a grandfather has been diagnosed already, they will be reluctant to share it with their family because it creates the emotional and financial burden to the other members of the family. In the Chinese community, it's the firstborn male son who bears the financial ability. And sometimes they hide the fact that they have dementia and they do not want to seek help because it's sort of mark their family being unable to take care of the responsibility of their grandfather or their parents.
Yeah. You know, as you think about your own life, what are you doing to help you live well that might have a cultural component to it?
This is a very interesting question because it has been 15 years since I was diagnosed, and people uh, are very skeptical, and unfortunately, some people get angry that I'm doing well. And they says, "You don't look like you have dementia." I'm sure some of you have heard this comment is, "You don't look like you have dementia." Early in my diagnosis, I came across a very interesting study started in 2014, and it's called Fingers Study, which is Finland geriatric study, and wherein they sort of not prescribe, but they say that there are a few things a person can do, like there's quite a few of them, and I'm not going to mention them because I do not remember them. However, for myself, so it's easier for me to remember, I created an acronym and I call it LISA. LISA for me is lifestyle, innovation, and social activities. And to me, we don't have to look at prescribed diets like Mediterranean because this may not fit our cultural dietary habits. So lifestyle innovation is probably adding a little bit of action. I hate the word exercise because not very many people in my age group do it. However, I find that just walking consistently in the morning after breakfast and in the evening just walk around the neighborhood, and if the weather is not great, there's always the shopping center when you can pretend you're shopping and then do maybe half an hour walk around and then go home, have a cup of coffee. So for social activities, something that I have sort of initiated, and I'm so happy other people I have started following it. So I thought about it costs so much money for people to see a psychiatrist or a therapist just to talk, because they ask you the questions anyway. So I thought, why don't I take my friends, acquaintances, or even I'm sorry, my this I keep saying the students at UBC for a quiet chat, having dim sum, or a hamburger at some restaurant, or even just a ice cream somewhere in Vancouver. Vancouver is very nice, because you can always sit outside at any time, even if it's snowing. So I love it. So and they do love it. And the thing there is, it's a lot cheaper if you think about it. It's a lot cheaper to take a friend for coffee or have a bite somewhere, rather than having a medical care provider, like a therapist. I have no battle with people, with therapists or psychiatrists. It's just that I feel like the connection, the chatting with your friends allows a person to feel better. And one of the things that I have been doing is volunteering. So for my entertainment, I go to the public library and borrow DVDs. And believe it or not, I'm still using a VHS because I find old movies are a little bit entertaining.
That's awesome. I still have a VHS player as well. You know, Mario, if you were to meet someone from the Asian community who's newly diagnosed with dementia, what advice would you give to them? Because again, you and I talked about this before. Not a lot of Asian people are comfortable sharing their diagnosis, or a lot of people aren't. You know, what advice would you share?
I think that is a very good question, in the sense that people are reluctant to share their diagnosis for fear of being ostracized, because a lot of communities do not take the diagnosis of their dementia too well. They equate it to the old idea that it is a mental health case issue that is very related to other debilitating brain issues. For the Asian community, I think it is I like to think of it as it is okay to tell people about it. I think they need to give themselves a permission to talk about it, because in North America, people are reticent to discuss their medical issue, and let alone having this stigmatizing illness like dementia. Uh, Now I forgot.
Yeah, so if someone was newly diagnosed, your first advice is don't be ashamed, share your diagnosis. Any other thoughts on what they can do?
I think what they should do is, first of all, decide their comfort level and tell their family members, so that they can share, and and they can share their concerns. And and it's always a good idea that if a diagnosis is confirmed, it is really a good idea to prepare for the eventualities. Like me, this is what I was told, because I was given, they said 7 to 12 years, and then I will most likely lose my capacity to be independent. And here I am 15 years later, and I like to think that I'm still doing well. But because they told me to prepare myself, it could happen anytime, and I'm prepared. So the Asian community is a very exclusive uh, kind of culture, wherein they do not like to share bad news about themselves for fear of being ostracized by other people. Because it is true, we have to admit it, that people, once they hear a person with dementia diagnosis, they lose their friends. But the next question will be, are they really trying to avoid that person, or are they afraid that they may not know how to react? So you don't know people. You don't know how they're gonna react. So the best thing is, just look at your comfort level, and then look at the people around you, and then share your experience. And if do not share that sort of compassion, then they're not your friends anyway. So no big loss. That's how I look at it.
Great point. You know, if you had to give advice to family members or care partners of those who live with dementia, what advice would you give to them to help them best support someone living with dementia?
I think understanding the person, look at the person, and do not and then look at who he is and how he is, and then look at the illness itself. What type of dementia does it have? What area can they extend their help? Um, Personally, I have 9 brothers and sisters, and after I was diagnosed, most of them are very supportive, and due to some spiritual reasons, some of them have refused to acknowledge that I do have it. And unfortunately, my some of them also get upset when I ask for help, because they said, "Oh, he just needs attention." They don't understand that my thinking process is already impaired. So I may need this help. It is their sense of denial that one of their loved ones have been struck with this kind of illness. It is not my fault, and it is just an illness like anything else. So the best thing is for people to give that unqualifying support for the person. And I think the best thing that they can do is just look at the books, look at the stuff that is out there, and learn a lot about the illness, because you cannot respond to the person if you are not aware of what is going on in physically and emotionally and mentally on that person.
Mario, you and I once talked about the importance or the need for more cultural awareness and understanding, especially for people who are not part of the Asian community. Can you tell me more about this?
This is a very interesting question, because I have come across it from the students at Simon Fraser University and University of British Columbia on how to deliver care for a person, because they may reject the idea of a younger person telling them about the illness, or telling them something that is not relevant or contrary to their beliefs. A good example would be a certain South Asian communities that believe in reincarnation, and probably they say that this illness is brought due to your the bad things about your previous life in the past, kind of thing. So the idea is not to contradict this kind of belief, but rather, how do you merge these two cultures and give them modern advice without saying, in a sense, you are wrong, this is the proper way. This is not the way to treat the certain cultures, because you are not going to persuade them if their firm beliefs is against what you're trying to tell them. It is a challenge to merge these two ideas, but there's always a way of looking into this kind of issues. And also, there are some ethnic communities wherein they do not want to seek help, because that is sort of saying, oh, you're not unable to provide care for your grandparents or your parents. It is, I think, another challenge to tell them that the the medical facilities are here to help them instead of, and they can work with these medical care providers to provide the service rather than be burdened with so much challenges in looking after a person with dementia. We are aware of some cultures that hides their parents or their loved ones in the basement, and it's, oh, he's just tired, or make excuses for his absence in public engagements and stuff like that. So I think in a very short word, I like to think that the South Asian community should say it is okay to talk about it. Because that is something that once we go past these hesitations about disclosure, then we can go ahead and start uh, seeking other people's uh, company or assistance, if you want to call it that kind of thing. In my case, we have new next door neighbor because they built a sort of townhomes in the area, and I do not hesitate to tell these young couples to tell them that I do have dementia, and surprisingly, I hate to admit it, but offer me more help than my brothers and sisters because they are a lot farther where I live. So during the pandemic, they just sort of dropped a box of those mask coverings. They said, you may recall in the early stage of the COVID-19, masks are very scarce. And they gave a short note saying, here's a box of masks. You might need it. And then another couple left a card in my doorstep and saying, here's our cell phone just in case. And then this past couple of days, I saw one of the guys with shoveling my sidewalk and his daughter sprinkling salt on my sidewalk. I think this is one of the benefits of telling your neighbors that you do have an illness. That sometimes you don't feel well and you're tired all the time, and sometimes they're always here willing to help. So I think it's very important to reach out to your community and your surroundings.
Oh, great points. And what great neighbors you have.
Thank you.
You know, in one of our conversations, you also spoke about the need for more ethnic specific and appropriate services. Maybe it's healthcare professionals who speak the same dialect and language, or even ethnic specific healthcare centers or senior living homes. Can you speak about why you think those are important?
I think in the present atmosphere in long-term care, um, people who speak a certain ethnic languages are not provided even the basic care because they're elderly, and some they do not speak English as their form of communications. And of course, you're aware that uh, in the later stage of dementia, even if they were speaking English in their language, they do revert to their own language, which make the delivery of care very difficult for this segment of our population. So I think it's more and more some hospitals provide these translations. I think we need to encourage digital technology to assist people in long-term care. playing a short video on how to brush their teeth or even drink water, how to drink a glass of water. Surprisingly, for people with dementia, will not drink the water, not because they don't want to, it's because they no longer understand the command. And you can display it, and then they can follow, and then they remember. For the South Asian communities who do not speak the English language, these visuals can help them in their ADL or their activities for daily living.
Oh, great points and great ideas.
Actually, if I may add, um, I was able to get hold of very small fund. So what one of the students proposed is, what about music as a therapy and a source of like, we always focus on loneliness and activities for social connections. So we were able to get 18 students. Half of them are in the later stage of their dementia. And so we created a program called Basic Ukulele for people, Basic Ukulele for You, which means the people in their later stage of dementia. And we looked at one chord songs and one chord strumming. So I have to say, we are so pleased with the results because they may not remember the all the chords, but if they are allowed to sing along and just do one chord entire song strumming. I just got word this morning how grateful the wives of our resident partners in just being there, because sometimes they may no longer, even chord C might be challenging for some of them. So what they do is just hold the ukulele, do a beat, and try to sing along with the group. And the wives were, I'm touched by their response to it. So hopefully we will get a little bit more funding so that I can continue the program.
That's amazing. You know, Mario, I think you really role model the value of sharing your diagnosis, because through your sharing, you've been engaged in so many neat different projects and initiatives that not only help other people live well, but I think it's also helping you live well.
Thank you, because that's what I thought. It's then I'm not really helping them. I'm helping myself by being there. And whenever they say that, oh, you don't look like you have dementia, and I say thank you. so so that's my short answer, and then I explain that it is because a positive attitude about the illness. So we're diagnosed with something. Let's not dwell about the negative challenges, but rather what we can do uh, uh, in spite of this diagnosis. And people are very helpful and they're very encouraging. So I'm amazed by the support from other people, and the fact that they still ask me to join them. I think it's a I don't want to say testament, but rather it's an acknowledgement that living well, just being active, volunteering. I have to focus on volunteering because there's so many things that a person with dementia can do. Just going to the library or even the child care centers, wherein they can tell stories or even show pictures of old things that they used to have. So, for example, probably family members can create a memory box, and then they'll say, okay, pick one item, and then they will pick something there, and then they will talk about it, and we say 3 minutes, and sometimes they talk much more than 3 minutes because they're so engrossed in telling a story. And I think that is one way of keeping people engaged and having them something to do.
Amazing. You know, when you were sharing this, I was reminded of the time when I was a kid and I would go with my grandmother to work. She worked for a healthcare service provider dedicated for serving the Asian community in the San Francisco area. And I love learning from the grandmas and grandpas all about my Chinese heritage and the things about the foods and the activities. I also did like to run around the space a bit too.
You'll be surprised how other people are very interested in hearing stories of like, oh, when you were young, what do you used to do, or what kind of vehicle you drive, or what kind of games, or what kind of tools, or some things that people don't like. If you show them to the children nowadays, they do not know what it is. So when you describe it to them, they're always fascinated by the good old things that grandpa used to have. That kind of
Yeah, love that. Passing some of that generational knowledge and
yes.
wisdom down is so important. I do have one last question for you, Mario. You know, the Asian community hasn't really been tapped into very much to understand the dementia experience. What else can we be doing as organizations like Dementia Action Alliance or as a society to help people understand the unique needs or differences of those who live with dementia or care for someone from the Asian community? Any advice?
If I can share some of our activities to this question is very, very important kind of thing. So what some of the things we're doing is getting involved in their festivals, and then the students and I bought some tents and some stuff, and then we we instead of them coming to us, we go to their festivals, and then we demonstrate some of the facilities that we have in digital technology. And at the same time, we have resources from the Alzheimer's Society of British Columbia, which is a very important key for us in BC, is connecting with the societies. So if you're in Manitoba or Saskatchewan, Alberta, or any other parts of Canada, or for people listening in other countries, there are always those sort of associations. Always connect with them and try to find out what they have to offer. And then you may want to go to your neurologist or geriatrician and ask them for help. They're very good in providing websites and facilities, or even agencies that would help you. For the Asian community, I think we always look at their culture, and then try to find out how to integrate the caring that we can help them with. So that's one way of reaching out to the community and give them the message that there is help available. So dementia is not the end of your journey. It's just a start of a new journey. Focus on their abilities instead of their disability of dementia.
Oh, great points. I love the strengths-based perspective that you're really highlighting. Mario, thank you so much for being part of today's podcast and sharing your lived experiences and your great advice. Thank you so much for that. Our goal with Calling All Voices is to shine a light on some of the real life needs and challenges that people living with dementia and their care partners have experienced, so that all of us can learn what else we can do to best support people from diverse communities, including the Asian community. To learn more, make sure to check out Dementia Action Alliance websites to read the white papers, view the podcast interviews just like the one we did with Mario today. To find out more about communities and the perspectives from the Black, African, LGBTQ+, Hispanic, Latinx, and of course, Asian communities. Thanks so much, Mario, for your time. Really appreciate it.
I'm so glad you invited me and allowed me the chance to share my dementia journey. Thank you so much, everybody.
We hope that you enjoyed this episode of Calling All Voices. If you're interested in learning more, please visit Dementia Action Alliance and or the Global Council on Alzheimer's Disease websites for resources and information on Calling All Voices. The creation of this podcast was sponsored by Otsuka Pharmaceutical Development and Commercialization Incorporated. This podcast is not, however, intended to provide medical advice. The views, thoughts, and opinions represented herein solely belong to the individuals sharing their experiences and do not represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of Otsuka Pharmaceutical Development and Commercialization Incorporated or its affiliates. If you have specific questions, medical questions that is, by all means, contact your healthcare provider. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please make sure to subscribe to this series and share a review and let others know what you heard and or experienced on today. I'm Dr. Tan, and bye for now.